This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, so I think it will take 3-4 minutes more to start the laptop. It's getting processed. So basically, today we will cover mainly where does the transportation actually fit in the S4 HANA business suite. Okay. So today is more of an industry perspective I want to give you, because I guess that some of you are quite new to the transportation process or transportation industry. So generally what I do in the first class is that it's more important to know why transportation is coming in today's industry focus now. Okay, so I will start with today that topic. So transportation is mainly defined as the movement of any goods from one place to another, but it has become a highly significant factor in logistics nowadays because of the high amount of logistics cost, and also the fact that transportation plays an important part in the reliability and the further delivery of the goods. Okay, so that's why in any type of SAP project where you work right now, previously it was the logistics execution component which was mainly used, but today in terms of the core competence also it is considered as a backbone of your global supply chain process, because in the day-to-day process, without the use of an effective and flexible transportation service, it is not possible to run the supply chain industry. Okay, so whether it is manufacturing goods from a procured component or shipment of your goods from any type of retail store, anywhere you go, if transportation does not work in the background, all the entire supply chain process falters. Okay, so it's very important to know that in today's supply chain process, where how these different components of the supply chain logistics are connected to each other. Okay, so give me one moment. I have one diagram for you so that you can understand that. Just 1 minute. So generally, transportation can be viewed in two general dimensions. Okay, one what we call as a connection type, and second what we call as a transportation mode. Any idea what do you mean by transportation mode?
The mode of transport like rail, ship, waterways and airways.
Yes, you're right. So transportation mode basically defines the type of transport which you are using when a cargo is moved, right? So either it can be a single mode or it can be a multi-mode. So multi-mode in SAP terminology is defined as multimodal. Multimodal means when you are using multiple mode of transport. Okay. So that means if you are moving any shipment, for example, within India, for example, from Bangalore to Chennai, and if you are using like road, so road is considered as a single mode of transport. But maybe if you are moving to particular some place in Vizag or something, then maybe you are moving through flight, and then from there you are using truck. So that means you are using two mode of transport. One is air, one is truck. So that is what is called as a multimodal. Okay. So based on this transportation mode, actually SAP TM has come up with the different execution document. So if I don't know whether you heard it clearly, like in my first when we had this demo, I had said that I have used a word called as a freight order and freight booking. Do you remember what is that? Okay, so freight order and freight booking are the actual execution document which we use in SAP TM. Okay, so if your mode of transport is road and rail, we call it as a freight order. And if your mode of transport is ocean or air, it is called as a freight booking. Okay, so that's why
Sorry,
defined
again,
on,
one more
yeah,
time, please.
yeah, freight order means in case you are doing an execution based on road or rail, which is on road, that is called as a freight order. But if you are doing your execution based on using ship or air, it is called as a freight booking.
Freight book.
Freight booking.
Okay, freight booking. Perfect.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So freight order and freight booking. So that is where SAP has differentiated based on the mode of transport. So I just tell you what are the different modes of transport. One is a road. That means like in case your transportation is taking place on public or private road. In that case, you are moving using trucks, trailers, chassis or semi trailers. It is called as a road transportation. Okay. Then another mode of transport what we have is rail. So if the transportation takes place on rail tracks, that means of transport for them are different trains with different kinds of rail cars. Okay, such as a flatbed rail car, hopper car, container stack cars. These are different types of rail cars. So if you are using the means of transport rail, then the mode of transport is always rail. Okay. Then there are some other yeah. Then there are some other mode of transport, like for example, air and ocean. Okay. So air means if the transportation is occurring by aircraft, okay, like it can be a cargo aircraft or passenger aircraft. Okay, then we call it as an air transportation. Similarly, if you are transporting, via ocean, then it is called as an ocean transport, like sea or vessel or air. Okay. So these are the different modes of transport which you have when you are basically using the mode of transport concept. And another mode of transport which we generally don't use too much is barge. So basically, sometimes the transportation is also done on the river barges. Okay. So that's mainly if you see in countries like China or from Germany, Netherlands, they actually do the transport through barge. So barge is another mode of transport. Okay. So that's the reason why SAP has come up with the concept of unimodal versus multimodal transport. Okay. So what is unimodal? So unimodal transport means if cargo is moved on a single mode of transport. That means either road or rail or sea or air, anything. Okay. That is called as a unimodal. But that means only one means of transport is used throughout the entire shipment process. But multimodal means if you are moving your cargo which is involving more than one mode of transport, then it is called as a multimodal. Okay. Any question till now?
Yeah, one question just. So you mentioned two dimensions in TM, that is transportation mode and connection type. What is connection type then?
Yes, now I'm coming. So
Yeah.
connection type means what? Either it can be a domestic or international. That means if you are moving your shipment within the entire state or within one region, that means you are not doing any cross-border shipment. Okay. Then that is called as a domestic or inland connection. That means cargo is moved within the same country and does not cross the border. Okay. So in that case, it is not relevant for any trade compliance process. That means there is no export or import declaration to be done. That is what we call as a domestic shipment. But if you are going for any international shipment where cargo is moved across the borders and hence it is relevant for the trade compliance, then it is called as a international shipment process. So that is what we call as a connection. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, now let me ask Naveen to share the screen. I don't know whether you can see my screen or not. 1 minute.
We don't right now.
Yeah, yeah, I just tell Naveen to do that. 1 minute.
Sure.
Any question till now? Like about these two
Yeah,
concepts?
yeah, Virendra, one thing I just wanted to understand, like, what's the difference between GTS and TM in that case? If the connections are of two types, that's the domestic and another one, another one being non-domestic. I mean,
No, I
hello.
did not answer. I did not answer your question. Sorry, can you tell me
Yeah,
again?
yeah, yeah. So you're talking about the connection type, right? So
Yeah,
international shipment process and the connection
domestic.
type. Yeah,
Yeah.
domestic. So wherein you said like domestic, no complaints is involved, and international shipment process, the complaints is involved. So what's the difference between this GTS and TM in that sense?
Yes, you're right. So basically, when we are defining, yeah. First, let me know. Can you see my screen?
Uh,
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. See, the first important thing when you are going for any domestic shipment, you don't need to do any declaration to the customs authorities. Okay. So customs authorities means what? They are actually the final owner who is going to tell you whether you are liable to cross the border and perform your international shipment, right? So in that case, what we do, we generally have to declare your goods values, and also has some insurance. You also need to declare your business partner. You need to declare to the customs authorities from which country to which country the shipment is going to happen. So all this process flow has to have a strong integration between the customs authorities and the GTS, because GTS is ultimately the module which we had, which that is a global trade service where all the trading activities which is outside the borderline was tackled with the customs authorities. That was the model which we had. Okay. So GTS has to have a direct integration with your customs authorities, and then once the customs authorities approve the particular declaration process, that means they are okay, whatever you are declaring is as per their rules and norms, then GTS, they used to send a confirmation to your GTS module, and GTS through the standard integration with TM used to say, okay, now the shipment is not blocked for execution. So that means till the time customs authorities approves your shipment declaration process, your execution is blocked. Okay, that means you cannot do any physical movement of your shipment across the border. Once the approval is there from GTS to TM, the execution block is removed, and then the shipment is ready to be moved across the premises. So for that, we used to have an integration between TM, GTS, and the customs authorities. Okay.
Okay. So now also we would be looking towards the GTS and TM.
See, if you are doing any domestic or inland processing, GTS is not required. If you are doing any international process, GTS is required, but because it's in an S4 HANA, in S4 HANA, GTS is not embedded. That means you don't find in the single instance client that GTS is there with TM. So you have to buy a separate license for GTS. Okay.
Okay.
So right now, so some of the clients are reluctant to pay extra money, right, from the licensing perspective. So then we all do this activity manually. So what we do, we trigger a form, we send the form manually to the customs authorities through email. Then the custom authorities approve or reject whatever to do. They send the response through email, and based on that, we remove the execution block manually.
Okay.
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 Right, right. GTS is a separate module, right?
Yeah. It's a separate module. It's not a module within TM.
Correct.
So if you see my particular process flow, the first figure, if you see, it is what are the different components of your supply chain process. Okay, if you see just an example, like in case I have spoken here about the inbound process, where the vendor basically delivers the materials or goods to a manufacturer or distributor, which then transports the goods to a production plant, right? Then the manufacturer distributor transforms the material or goods into the finished product, which are then transported to the final receiver. Okay. So here each company has a need for internal logistics, which again can involve transportation. Then you also have the external transportation, which can be done directly or via the facilities. Here, if you see in that case, that lot is at stake if the processes are not properly managed, right? So one, from the supply chain perspective, if you see, it will define the entire value chain, from the vendor to the manufacturer to distributor and to the final receiver. Then if you see from the logistics perspective also, this is the logistics one. It will define the entire process of receiving, storing, moving, shipping of goods. Okay. And finally, you have the transportation part. And from the transportation, if you see, it will define the movement of your materials or goods between different supply chain parties here, right? So it is not only internal logistics, but also external transportation is also important, for the entire process flow. So that's why we cannot undermine the significance of transportation here. So that's why without transportation to the logistics supply industry cannot work. Okay. And in order to have a strong integrated linkage for planning, for execution, for charges, settlement, everything, the transportation management is the most useful, one of the most useful tool today in a supply chain business. So that's why I just try to explain you the importance of the transportation process. Is it clear?
Yes, Virendra.
Okay.
Yes.
Now the question is how to sell this transportation process to your industry. Okay, so basically there are two types of industry, but I just tell you, we often use the word shipment, right? Any idea what do you mean by shipment before I tell you about the industries? What is shipment?
Shipment means it's a delivery.
No, shipment is not
It's a kind of a
after delivery.
it's
Yeah.
a kind of a delivery challan, a kind of.
I will not say this exact word. It's a type of a delivery channel, but to put it into a simple word, I will say is a movement of your cargo from origin to destination. That is what we call a shipment.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then,
Mm.
as I told you, because the transportation can be either unimodal or multimodal, so the importance of shipment is that cargo is considered to be shipped only if the cargo has left the original site, right? Or it is considered to be received if all the cargo arrived at the destination site. Correct? If both these things occur, then only we say that the shipment is completed. So it is very important whenever you are doing any type of shipment, you need to consider what are the shipping documentation, what are the shipment declaration and checks, and what are the shipment compliance. So when I say shipment document creation means there are different types of documentation which needs to be created based on different industry, which I'll come to you later. One is the shipper industry, one is the freight forwarder industry. Correct? So there can be some shipment documents like house way bill, which is your legal shipping document. One, there can also be some manifest, there can be some order, transportation order form, there can be some loading form, unloading form, there can be many things which is required when you are doing your shipment process. And shipment trade declaration means, as I told you, it can be both your export and import handling. And shipment compliance means in case you are doing a shipment using a dangerous goods, then dangerous goods check can be a shipment compliance, right? So shipment typically means when you are moving your cargo or products from origin to destination. In simple word, that is what is called shipment. So when we are using a word shipment, so SAP TM came into the purview. Okay, then you can use shipment across various industries. What are the different industries? One is your shipper industry. Any idea who are called a shipper?
Its shipper is a
Uh,
person or a company that transports goods.
That transport goods. Yes. So
Forwarding
basically,
agent?
forwarding agent. Not exactly. They are not a forwarding agent. Maybe they can do the transportation of their own, and then they may be considered as a forwarding agent. But generally, it's they are not generally called as a forwarding agent. So I tell you, shipper industry, or what we all so in your SAP also you will see a word called shipper. So shipper is a company that organizes the transportation of goods. Okay, that means They don't manage logistics and transportation needs as their main business. Their core business is not transportation. Please keep this in mind. Their profit as a company is achieved by producing or trading the goods and the materials. That's why if you see, when we use the word shipper in our DCC, they are mainly associated with procurement, selling, warehousing, inventorizing, etc. But they never used to do any transportation, because transportation, but nowadays, although transportation is a necessary medium to physically network with the partners, but shippers are usually called as a first party logistics providers. Okay, I don't know whether you've heard this word, first party, 2PL, 3PL, 4PL, but generally shippers are called the first party logistic providers, as they do their own logistics. Okay, they may hire someone from outside in case they don't have any means to transport, but generally they are called as a first PL, 1PL, first party logistic providers. Okay, so goods, basically the shipper mainly are responsible for the different scenarios, like goods that are sold by that company to one of its subsidiaries, they can be a shipper, or goods that has to be distributed by that company, they can also be a shipper, or goods that have been procured by that company if the buyer and the vendor have agreed that the vendor is not responsible for organizing the transportation, they can also be called as a shipper. Okay, so in other words, shippers are those companies whose main business process is not transportation, but they need transportation to move the product from to the consumers, right? Consumer means the end user customers.
So, for example, can we say like Amazon is can Amazon be a shipper?
But Amazon don't produce or sell goods, right? They are only
Yeah. So,
responsible for transporting the goods. So they are called as they can be called as a logistics provider, or in some cases they
okay.
can also be called as an forwarding agents or carrier.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So if you try to recollect, there are three words I have used. One is your shipper, second is your consumer. Consumer means the customers, the end customers, the ship to parties. Correct. So it is the responsibility of the carrier who actually physically transport the goods from the shipper to the end consumers. So that is where the relationship comes. So if shipper needs to do the transportation, if they don't have their own transportation mechanism, they will call a third party like Amazon or FedEx or UPS or something, and then these parties will come and they will take the responsibility to pick up the goods from the shipper industry shipping point and deliver it to the ship to party location. Correct. But if you are implementing SAP TM on behalf of the shipper, that is why we call as a shipper scenario. But if you are implementing SAP TM on behalf of the carrier or the logistics service provider, for them it is called as an LSP scenario. You have to understand the purview where the SAP is getting implemented. That's why I told you, for a shipper scenario, ECC is a mandatory, because for a shipper, since procurement selling is a main function, so they need ECC in their system to create a purchase order, sales order, delivery, right? And based on that, TM can be triggered. So that is what we call as a shipper scenario. So without ECC, shipper scenario cannot work. But if you are implementing TM for a freight forwarder means Amazon or UPS or FedEx, what you will do as a customer, you tell them, okay, FedEx, please come and pick up the goods from my house. So they will create a forwarding order in their system, and then from the forwarding order, the subsequent TM process will start. So the basic difference between shipper and LSP is that LSP don't require any ECC to trigger their initial process. They can directly do it in TM. But for a shipper, they require ECC in their case. So when I was speaking of the word LSP or freight forwarder industry, LSP means logistics service provider. Their main business is transportation. Their main business is to make sure that the execution capabilities between shippers and the LSP is done by them. That means all the flow of goods and materials between origin and destination is their responsibility. They will interact with the customs authorities to get all the declarations approved, all the documentation approved, all the trucks arrangement, all the subcontracting operations, all are taken care by the such type of LSPs. Okay. Any question?
So LSP, what I understand is, it's a outsourcing of logistic operations to the third party, right? If can be understood like that.
Yes, actually LSP can be categorized into different groups. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One is
Mm-hmm.
one group is called as a 2PL. 2PL means they are called as a second party logistics providers. So what
Okay.
are second party logistics providers? So these companies actually directly execute the transportation and the logistics process for others using their own trucks and resources. That means they have their own fleet and storage capacities. So one of the category of LSP is second party logistics provider. Okay. Another category of LSP can be a freight forwarder. That means freight forwarder can be a 3PL or 4PL. 3PL means third party logistics, 4PL means fourth party logistics. So maybe these companies usually don't operate their own fleet, but they are much less because they are much less asset focused. They don't have their own asset, but their profession is to organize end-to-end shipment for shippers. So those companies who arrange the end-to-end shipment process for the shipper, they are called as the LSPs. Okay.
Okay. Got it.
So
Yeah.
they are, yeah. So as I told you, they can be 2PL or they can be 3PL or they can be 4PL, but they entirely take the responsible for end-to-end shipment for the shippers on behalf of the shipper. But please note, a shipper, LSP and a carrier is different. Carrier is a local agent who actually does the entire execution. So if you call, for example, Amazon, what will Amazon do? Suppose you are located in US and you want to transport to Germany. Amazon will actually call the local subcontractor in US, tell them, okay, ABC is the name of the carrier. ABC company, please pick up the goods from US. They will bring it to a particular port. From the port, another subcontractor at German location will come and pick up on behalf of Amazon and finally deliver to the goods. So the actual execution is actually done by the carrier. Okay, but the responsibility is taken by the LSPs because the LSPs usually subcontract their operations to the local carrier. Clear?
Yes.
So as I told you, LSP can be your second party LS 2PL, 3PL, 4PL. Even if you see also, they can also be the courier or express service providers, what we call as a CEP. I don't know whether you've heard of this. CEP stands for Courier, Express and Parcel Service Provider. So these companies usually concentrate on the movement of small freight items such as package. If you want to parcel to someone, right, like DHL and all, they come forward and transport your parcel, right, in the form of small items and packages. So these are also called as a courier, express and parcel service provider. These also falls under LSP. Okay.
So one last thing
Yeah.
before we go forward. So what is the difference? At 2PL, I understand, directly execute transports from others to their own, using their own resources like trucks, fleets, and so on. And 3PL, 4PL, we say that they do not have their own resources. They utilize other resources and
Yes.
basically do the same thing, and transporting from, one place to another. So, but what is the difference between 3PL and 4PL? Why 3 and 4? Like,
Yeah, so 4PL means these are the highest level. That means they not only offer service to execute your shipment, but they also redesign and consult for a supply chain of your entire shipment process. Okay, so the difference between 2PL and 3PL is based on the amount of responsibility the people take to design your process. That is the only difference. In the system, you will not find it what they actually do, but from a logistics service provider perspective, it depends on what type of work they're actually doing. So sometimes a 3PL can behave as a 4PL or a 4PL can behave as a 3PL as well. Okay, but it depends on what type of work they are actually interested when they are doing any type of supply chain process. So for
Okay.
basically for a 3PL, so 4PL, as I told, that they can also design your supply chain process. But 3PL is what? 3PL is basically they can basically perform the both warehousing and transportation service, and they can do it based on the customer requirement, based on the market condition, based on the demand, based on the service requirement. Okay, so they not only are responsible for doing the actual execution, but they can also do the entire. They can also interact with all the customs authorities and all, get all the necessary approvals in place. Okay, so basically they can be a service developer, they can be a customer developer, and they can be a customer adapter. That is what we call as a 3PL. But they don't have their own assets. They may have, again, as I told you, they may have their own assets, they may not have their own assets. Okay, so it depends on what they actually do for your shipper. So in
Okay.
case they do your tracking, tracing, cross docking, packaging for the customer, then they are called as a service developer 3PL. Okay, so and if the 3PL basically comes in at the request of the customer, sometimes the customer also requests that you please take over the responsibility of the entire shipment. That is, then in that case they play the role of a customer adapter. Okay, and also they can also yeah, so that is what I have to say between 2PL and 3PL and 4PL.
Okay. So back to the question where it all started. How do you sell TM to your customer as a pre-sales guy? You sell it as a shipper or as a LSP, right?
See, yes, you sell it in that way, but if you see globally nowadays, I now come into the potential SAP integration points.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly 90% of the scenarios are shipper, because uh, see, most of the scenarios where SAP comes into the picture is when you are doing in your trading, right? Or when you are doing your normal sales and procurement, right? Standard ECC. And as I
Mm-hmm.
told you, in standard ECC means your TM will be working as a shipper. You
Correct.
cannot sell
For
TM
in,
for LSP in that case.
yeah, for inbound and outbound deliveries, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Any other question here? Okay. So now I tell you the move from your SAP Y/S4 HANA. Okay. See, basically, I hope all of you have heard this word like S4 HANA and all. Right? It is a database which has got many advantages in terms of simplification of data, less hardware is required, performance becomes more faster.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, yeah. So ACE means what? ACE4. You know what is the
Simplification.
meaning of? Yes, ACE means simplicity, right? And 4 means?
Fourth generation.
No. You see, in
Oh,
R3 we call R by 3, right?
Yeah.
So after
sure.
R3 is 4. After 3 is 4. So it's a successor of 3.
Yep.
Okay. And what is HANA? HANA means, because the memory technology is HANA, so that's why we call it SAP HANA. Okay. So in other words, if you see, the major objective is simplicity. Simplicity in terms of the usage, simplicity in terms of the business process, simplicity in terms of decision, and simplicity in terms of configuration and data model. So these are the 5 different architecture level based on which why SAP has brought in S4 HANA as well. Okay, for TM. So SAP S4 HANA is based on the in-memory platform, right? So where there were large number of transitions starting from a development perspective, starting from the analytics perspective, and then there was a foundation for the SAP Business Suite, where initially the finance was implemented, and finally the successor, it was a success, and then we came into the normal S4 HANA logistics space, right? But please note the first part was implemented for S4 was in finance, not logistics. Okay.
Correct. Simple finance.
Okay. Yes. Now, after that, SAP slowly in the initial version, SAP TM was not there. SAP TM was treated as a sidecar. Sidecar means you have your SAP ECC core logistics process in S4 HANA, but TM was not embedded. Embedded means it is not in the same instance or same server where S4 HANA was there. Okay. So from 1709 onwards, they brought this functionality within your S4 HANA. Now, there is a challenge, not a challenge, I'll say, when you're bringing your SAP TM into S4 HANA, okay, basically, although you don't have to pay for a separate license if you are bringing SAP TM into S4 HANA, but in order to enjoy the full functionalities, what we used to have as a sidecar scenario, that is when it was not embedded, you need to buy in an additional license. So SAP TM in S4 HANA actually is divided into two parts. One is a basic, one is the advanced. If it is a basic, you don't have to pay any extra amount. But if you are going to avail the advanced part, in that case, you need to pay extra amount, the licensing fee per user. Okay?
Yeah, very interesting. So what is on a high level? We will also talk it on when we go through that individual topics. So what is licensed and what is not?
Yeah, that functionality I'll tell you maybe once because if I use some of the terminology, you'll not be able to understand. I'll give you a process means in a slide I will explain to you. But just
Okay.
hold on for a few days because if I tell you some terminology, you'll not understand it now.
Okay.
Okay, I'll tell you.
But just curious, I just wanted to ask. So the basic cycle of TM, is free or is
Yeah,
it is still applicable?
it's free,
The
free.
license. Okay,
It
great.
is free. Okay,
Okay.
so basically whatever license, whatever process we used to cover under Elytra, they are considering it as a part of your basic. But if you are doing in anything more than Elytra, then only it becomes an advance. So standard process, you don't need to pay any amount. But if you are just going into a little bit detail, then you need to pay extra licensing fee. Okay.
Okay.
So if you
Okay.
see this picture now,
So yeah, Virendra, when we go through the topics, there
yeah,
is a request, please exclusively mention that this requires license and this, because
yes,
I do a lot of pre-sales work also. So that will be
yes, yes,
helpful for me. Thank you so much.
yes, yes, yeah. So if you see here, this is more of a reason why S4 HANA is important. If you see the second picture is mainly for that, where we have a strong integration across all areas and different types of digital software tools which we have used, like different types of devices, Internet of Things technologies, business networks, social networks, people, big data, all can be joined smoothly within the S4 HANA core premise. Okay. So that's why you see, like, if you see the native integration of hybrid, Ariba, Concur, Fieldglass, SAP Success Factor, then you have the big data, device, people, all these things are tightly integrated with the SAP S4 HANA digital core. This is called as the S4 HANA digital core. Okay. So now your question is, where is SAP TM? SAP TM lies in this. If you see, there are two versions. Okay. One is your on-premise, one is a cloud. Okay. So on-premise means what? Which is not in cloud. That means you don't need to use any specific private or public cloud here. Okay. So SAP's S4 HANA cloud was established initially as a public cloud. Okay. Or where it offered some functionalities. However, from S4 HANA 1809, there are still components that are not offered in the public cloud yet, including SAP TM, where SAP TM as of now is still in the on-premise, but you can install TM as in the public cloud as well with limited functionalities. Okay. So if in your pre-sale, if anyone asks whether we can have SAP TM in private cloud or public cloud, answer is yes. But if you are into a public cloud, you will not enjoy all the functionalities which you have had in case you are on-premise. On-premise means it is embedded. That means it is in the same central system with S4 HANA. If you are buying the advanced functionality license, you'll get all the features. But in cloud version, you will not get all the features what you have on premise because it is still in the development phase.
Okay.
Okay. If I go to the next slide, yeah. So this slide actually is more from an information perspective, okay, because you should know basically, what is a roadmap for your S/4HANA cloud, right? Because ultimately, it's this that is going to basically serve you in your course of the entire component. So SAP TM as part of S/4HANA, okay. So as I told you, SAP TM initially started as a standalone business suite application, okay, and then considering the demand, they have decided to integrate into the basic core of S/4HANA. So with the availability of S/4HANA, the market required TM to be an integral part because it is required to have a tighter integration into the master data part and also the digital core. Okay, and because as you know that S/4HANA is a long-term strategic software of SAP, right, where everyone has to go into that. So SAP TM is now available on two different platforms, either as a standalone means it is not still embedded, okay, maybe your core logistics is in S/4HANA but your SAP TM is not embedded into that. So the latest version which we have in standalone version is 9.5 and 9.6. 9.6 is the latest one which has been released few days back. But if you are into your S/4HANA system, then the latest one which we have is 1909. Okay, so obviously some more features are there as compared to 1809 to 1909, but it's more into a evolving phase. With every releases, SAP is going to add more and more functionalities in the S/4HANA business suite with embedded TM. So if you see the history, this is part of because TM has always been a long history within the logistics space. Okay, initially shipper focused solutions was provided to large customers since 1990, if I recollect, where at that time the mainframe system was SAP R2. Okay, so they released a module called as an RT module. Okay, which allowed the organization of multimodal transports to occur. But then with the advent of R3, okay, then the logistics execution came into the market. I think all of you know this ELI, what we call as a ELITRA. That means it was the transportation component of a logistics execution module, ELITRA. And it started in actually in 1994-95, if I recollect at the time. And then ultimately this functionality grew in different releases, and ultimately for the shipper, SAP TM was formally announced for TM 8.0. Okay, so but TM 8.0 has some because it was more of an evolving phase, it did not go well with the customers. Okay,
So Virendra,
so then, yeah.
sorry for interrupting. So Virendra, what happens to LETRA? Though does it coexist or it is with
LETRA,
MBTS for?
yeah. See, even if you buy S/4HANA Business Suite, you still
Mhm.
have which you can see Elytra means more of a VT01 and VI01. Okay,
Perfect. Yeah.
so so you can still perform this action, but in case you are implementing TM, then you don't need to execute VT01 and VI01. Okay, because the
Okay.
entire shipment process will now be performed in TM. In case you are not implementing TM, then you still have the option to use VT01 and VI01.
Okay.
Okay. So again, going back to the history, basically in 2010, when TM 8.0 was officially discarded, then TM 9.0 came into the picture, and then slowly SAP began to redefine the scenarios for FCL, LCL. Then they brought in the rail scenarios, different features of a shipper scenario, and then it was well integrated with TM 9.1, 9.3, and now the system is quite stable. Okay, so that is what, if you see the roadmap now, after TM 9.6 there will be no further standalone releases. All releases will be in S/4HANA. Okay, So from 2019 onwards, if you see till 2025, all the developments that will be done will be in S4 HANA suite only. There will not be any changes done in your standalone. Okay.
Okay.
So what are the So what are the different deployment options you can have? Okay. So one deployment option is that your SAP TM in S4 HANA can run as an integral part together with other embedded logistics, right? That is one option you can have. That means in one system you can integrate your TM and your logistics process in one client. That is what we call as a embedded solution. Correct? That is the first deployment option. Second deployment option can be where SAP TM in S4 HANA can run as an independent instance connected to another S4 HANA. That means you have your S4 HANA logistics in one server, but you also want to have your SAP TM in a not embedded, but into parallelly into another server, and you're connecting both of these S4 HANA systems. Okay. So this is required actually in those where business needs to have your transportation up and running independently of your finance process, for example. So they need to have two different two different servers. Clear?
Yeah.
Another deployment option can be where SAP TM can run as a standalone connected to another business suite integration for logistics. That means that is not in S4 HANA at all. It's just a standalone. Now SAP TM 9.5, 9.6. Another can be where SAP TM is side alone and it is connected to a non-SAP business suite S4 HANA. That means your core logistics is also in standard ECC. It's not in S4 HANA. Okay. So these are the different options, basically what you get. And if you see my last figure here, this is the another figure what I've seen here, that if SAP TM is used as an integral part of S4 HANA, it is fully integrated with the internal components such as sales, procurement, shipping, billing, inventory, product safety, warehousing. Okay, so these are all the components. Okay, so it is fully integrated with your S4 HANA. Okay, and this is your internal integration, and external integration means this is one box, this is outside box. You can also have an external integration with components such as SAP Event Management, SAP Business Warehouse. But integration with external components requires the use of FPS. FPS means Feature Pack Stack. It's called as a Feature Pack Stack. So if you want to integrate your S4, like your TM, which is to a component which is outside S4 HANA, then you have to use the FPS level. Okay. FPS means Feature Pack Stack. So SAP TM currently keeps its current integration path, but that is how it works. So if it is outside, then you have
So
to
in case,
integrate. Yeah.
so in case it is standalone, how does the two systems communicate? How does the request go from my outbound delivery to the TM system?
PI. So if it is separate, then you have to use either a PI or you have to use a web service. That means
Okay.
either through SOA manager or you have to use a middleware like PI.
Okay.
In case you are using the same system, in that case, there is no PI or web service required because it's the same system. So same, you'll find everywhere the same messages, and you don't need to do shipping also. So in case it is a different system, you need to ship. Ship means you need to send across the master data from ECC system to TM system, like customer, shipping points, plans, vendors, materials.
Right.
But in case it is embedded, it's not required because it's all in the same system.
Strange enough, we do not have any standard IDOCs to do the same, since both being the SAP systems. My TM is also SAP system, and the other system is also SAP system. Why do I need to use a PI? PI is ideally used in a platform where it is communicating with SAP to non-SAP and so on in other landscapes.
No. I said that you are using PI only in case your SAP TM is side alone. It's not embedded. If it is embedded, you don't need PI.
Right.
So if your TM is outside your S4 HANA, then obviously you need to use some middleware to transfer data, right, from ECC to TM. In that case, PI is used because PI has the standard S proxy services. All the services are standard service, which helps you to map the data between ECC to TM. But if you are using an embedded, in case of embedded, you don't need PI. That's what the benefit is.
All right. Okay.
iDocs are not a very preferred way of communicating with SAP TM, considering it's a web UI product. Okay, it's a web user interface product. So always it's a SOA. It's based on SOA, service oriented architecture. Web UI always SOA oriented products. Okay, and in SOA always the communication is done through web service and not through iDocs. Okay. So that was what the overview of your SAP TM in terms of architecture and in terms of your deployment option, in terms of your industry coverage, and in terms of what is the implication of the shipper and freight forwarder industry. So this was what I covered today. Any question?
Virendra, one thing, the best option would be rather than going for embedded system, it's better if one can procure TM as a separate server, especially
See,
when it relates to the pre-sales. So can we propose the same, or
yeah, see, you have to be a
uh,
little bit diplomatic in addressing this. See, the thing is that, as I told you, like ultimately you have to move into S4 HANA, right? Because the support and all developments are going to stop by 2025. As of now, if currently your business is not ready for the S4 HANA migration, because what I heard, SAP has extended that particular period by around more than 10 years now. Okay, so again, the market, they may decide, okay, let me go into my S4 SAP R3, what I have, I will do it after 5 years. So if that is the tendency of your business, then no need to get your SAP TMA as part of your embedded. You create it as part of a standalone, because you have R3 and you just integrate with your R3 component with SAP TM. Okay.
Yeah, but sir, in that case, you have to use SAP PI, which is again an overhead for the business, right? In TM,
Yes,
that
it
is
is an
eliminated.
overhead.
Yeah, in
Yes.
S4, then it is eliminated, right? Same, say, I've saved some dollars, right?
You save some dollar, but at the same time, you have to understand here that if you are using a standalone TM also, you are getting all the benefits by paying one time. But if you are going to S4 HANA, then for the advanced, you need to anyway pay. Although the amount may be less, but at that time, another overhead that can be is that if they are planning to do a migration after 5 years down the line because of the budget constraint, you have to upgrade your R3 to S4 HANA, right? Your HANA memory database. That will also call for some
Yeah,
your cost. So that
correct.
balancing acts. So if your client is already in S4 HANA or they are planning to be in S4 HANA, then clearly sell it as an embedded part. But if a client is not in S4 HANA or they are not planning now to be in S4 HANA, then sell it as a R3, like standalone.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
That should be the strategy.
yeah.
Again, there
So
is no best practice for that. Yeah.
how's the market for TM? One related question on that. How's the market for TM in terms of, not in terms of consultants, in terms of companies adapting to this product?
See, if you compare the earlier, any type of industry, okay, shipper industry, there was not so much significance of this logistics cost, right?
Yeah.
Because most of the business were maybe either it was a inland business or domestic business, and through trucks, it was not of a huge significance to them. But with now more CFOs and CEOs actually concentrating more on the logistical cost, because if you find out any type of Gartner report, it says around 9 to 18% of your total cost is eaten up by the logistics, which has a huge impact, considering that nowadays the marginal gross margin is between 15 to 20% of any industry. So if you are losing 18 to 20% of your logistics cost, it's a big pain, right? They want to get rid of that. So ALI module, which was there initially, it used to serve your purpose, but no overhead, no planning, no execution, nothing was possible through that module. Okay. So that's why SAP has brought in this module where it is more, a competitor for Oracle. I don't know how much you know about OTM. OTM means Oracle had one of the module called as an Oracle Transport Management. Okay, so it was very much advanced. So where Oracle was sold, they used to take up OTM as well. So SAP has brought their thinking in that light. Now wherever you are selling R3 license, they are bringing up TM, because ultimately TM is going to be in your cloud. Ultimately TM is going to be your transportation solution in the future. So the question answer is, it is a very bright prospect if you take up this part as selling SAP TM now, because every company has to evolve around SAP TM. They don't have any option.
Correct. Plus,
Okay.
because it is embedded, it will definitely grow, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's also happening with EWM, right? Because they embedded it in the core S4 digital core.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Okay. So today that was the theory part I wanted to conclude today, and I just give you a feel of how your SAP TM looks like. I will not start with the organizational data, because just take time, try to think what I told you, why TM is required and all, because it is important. So this is the client. As I told you, TM is a web UI product. Okay, the entire architecture is based on your service-oriented architecture. So you don't have standard transaction code to execute any day-to-day transaction like you used to have in ECC. The only thing what you get here is the transaction code for master data. If you go to logistics, under logistics you go to transport management. Under here you get to master data, and these are the only transaction codes you have. Rest, nothing is there. So you have, in order to access the other applications of TM, you have to go through NWBC. NWBC stands for NetWeaver Business Client. And here if you see, lot of roles are there. Okay, you don't have to worry of so many roles, but standard role which we require is of a role of a manager, transport manager. But generally we select this role. This role has all the different it has all the SAP all roles. Okay, you see SAP TM all authorized.
Virendra, Fury does not work for TM?
Yes, yes. You also have Fiori. See, in the when you call up Fiori, the only difference is Fiori has you have to just, there is a link. When you type in the link in the backend, it calls TM 9.5. It's the same NWBC script which it calls in the backend.
Okay, but you can
Okay.
access it to Fury, right? That's okay.
Yeah, you can access to Fiori. Yes. And these are the different menus what you have. As I told you, if you recollect, there are 4 components of your TM, right? Order management, planning, execution, and settlement, right? So for viewing any type of order management part, so first of all, obviously the master data. So master data, either you can access to the transactions or you can access through here. Then your order management means my freight unit is the first object which is created. So all the freight units and all, you can view it through this application. Next part is the creation of your execution document, that is freight order, freight booking. So you have your freight order and freight booking in these menus. Then you have your charge calculation. So for that we need a freight agreement in the system. So you can access this. Where is freight agreement? Freight agreement. This is for your shipment cost calculation. And finally you have the settlement process, which is your draft invoicing. So if you see here, and then for planning, there are some other tabs which is called as a application administration, where you can view all the different profiles and all when you do planning. This part we don't require it right now. This part is only required if you are working in standalone, because we have this OTR and DTR concept which does not exist in embedded. Okay. Similarly, if you go to LSP, we have the forwarding order management scenario. So this scenario is actually required if you want to create a forwarding order for LSPs. Following on this path, the same thing if you go to SPRO also. If you go to transportation management, you go to your, see the nodes are also like that, what I showed you now. One is your master data. Then the basic functions means all the basic planning functions and all you can find here. Then freight unit type you can configure. Then you have your freight order types, what you can configure. Then for charge calculation, you have your charge calculation part. Then for settlement, you have the settlement part. And for integration with your ECC for settlement process, you have this freight settlement. So even if you see here, your configuration nodes is also like this process wise. It's very systematic. And another important thing is that you don't need to scratch your head if you want to find out what baddies I need to use for my development. See, they have also given the list of baddies. If you do here for the development purpose, if you want to know if I want to use some baddies for my master data process, for example, I want to know for my location, you can find out the baddie name. For resource, you can find out my baddie name. So this is for your master data. Similarly, following this same function for basic functions, if you want to do some enhancement in your charge calculation, then you can find a baddie here. Similarly, if you want to do any enhancement for your planning, you can do your planning. Okay.
Virendra, just curious, so asking that geographical map and all those is part of advanced, right? It must have separate license.
Yes. You have to pay license for that. Because license means you need to actually buy the, you have to procure it, right? For that particular specific service provider, or else you will not get it.
Yeah, got it.
And for freight settle and for settlement process, these are the baddies. And these are some of the other integration what you need if you want to actually maintain it. So even you don't have to really find it hard to find out what are the baddies required for any enhancements. You can directly go here and you can, from the configuration node, you can actually find it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. One thing, Virendra, wanted to ask is, so would we be going through the integration with the ECC part as well? I'm just curious to know, like, if we create the,
Yeah, integration with ECC is required, right? Without that, you cannot run TM. That's what I told you for sure. So, like, I'll not tell you how to create a sales organization, sales office, sales group. I'll not tell that. I assume you know how to create a sales order. So, from sales order, what are the integration you need to do with TM? All those things I will tell you. So, if you see here, I just give you a brief overview. If you go to integration tab, you'll go to ERP logistics. Sorry. Yeah, if you go to integration here, you go to logistics. Okay. If you go to internal logistics here, I have to tell you how to integrate your sales document, how to integrate your purchasing document, how to integrate your delivery document. So all these things I'll show. Okay.
So for all those things to be getting set it up, like the sales organization, distribution channel division, the plant, storage location, and all.
Yeah.
So would we be doing this in the, I mean, the other ECC system, right? So if at all we have to work, then we need to work on ECC as well as in TM. So on both servers, we need to work as part of practice, is it?
No. Here ECC and TM is in the same server, right? You are working on an S4
Yes.
HANA.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's in a single system.
Understood.
Whatever you have to work, it's in a single system. In case it's side alone, then only you have to work in two systems.
Okay, I got it. Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so this was what I had planned today, because I have for next week I'll directly go into the system where I will start with the organizational structure. Okay. Like we have got different components of organizational structure, I hope you know what, like in standard sales we used to create so many organizational structure, but in TM it's more simplified. So I will start with the organizational structure from next week onwards, and also the master data. So we'll start with those two contents in the next week. Okay.
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 So the first day I actually give some time to analyze about TM Industries, and then
Mhm.
from next second day onwards I go directly into the system. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Viren. See you next week.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
See
you.
you next week. Okay.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Have a great
Bye.
week
Thank
ahead.
you, Virendra. Yep.
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah.
great day. Thank you all. Have a
Yeah.
great day.